Okay, welcome everybody. Of course, I want to welcome us all to Gumbunya country, and to say that, of course, we acknowledge that our elders past and present, and that we're on glorious country here, and that the work that we all do every day protects and cares for that glorious country, and so that we're always having a think about that connection. Our First Nations people were great collaborators. They also had a plan that you didn't take without giving. And so the reciprocity is something that is quite huge in community. And so that's what today is about. There's some reciprocity going to be happening. We've got a few brave souls who are going to get up and have a little yarn about what they're doing. And then we're going to be the people who give them back. And that means it doesn't have to be life bond. It's not like this Collabor-date is a marriage. But it's a weird. Connie asked us just to come up with an idea that was a bit different to finish the conference off with. If you were at the first session where Costa and Gillian and myself spoke about collaboration, we thought we might like to try and put some of those things into practice at the end of the session to see if we learnt anything along the way. No, just to give it a go, right? And so the idea with this is that there's going to be a presentation of an idea or a product. I'm not too sure because we were lovely and loose about what that was going to be. It could just be an introduction of saying, this is my company and I do this. And then if you're sitting in the room and you've got an idea that you might want to chip in, or something that you've seen that supports, or that you would love to have a conversation further with that person, then feel free, at the end we'll be running around with a microphone, feel free to say so. But we're not going to, no one's going to be, as you say, it's not a marriage. And also, if you seriously want to collaborate, then you've seen this person on stage and you can walk up to them after the session and say, hey, let's talk about this further. We're also going to have some hot tips. I'm going to introduce the gang who are on stage. To my right, I've got Michael Bork, who is our scrap boy. Yeah, give him a round of applause. If you said he's so busy, it's been all over the place. And I would like to let you know about Michael the man rather than Michael the scrap boy. I've known Michael ever since he was 5, which is kind of weird.
20 years ago.
Kind of. I was going to say 15, but anyway. Michael, as well as being our scrap boy, and he also works in our business. So if you've been talking to us about anything and a man called Michael rings, this is the man who's been talking to you on the telephone. He doesn't often say, hey, it's Scrap Boy. He usually says, hello, it's Michael Bork. But Michael also is the, are you still the union media rep in Queensland? So he's the arts media rep for the union in Queensland. He looks after all actors and performers in Queensland and their rights. He is also the president of the Benevolence Society for Arts in Queensland, looking after our aged and sick artists. So, and I'm super proud of him for both of those jobs. I don't often get to say that in public. He's also a producer at Channel 9 for their children's TV shows as well. And so he is a really incredible young man that I am blessed to say and happy to have as my scrap boy still. Every time I say, right, get there, we are his number one priority, so it's very lovely. And at the end we have Claire Kneller. Of course, you've seen Claire speaking today in all kinds of ways. Now, Claire's been completely roped in because a couple of months ago I said, hey, Claire, we're doing this session. Do you want to? She said, yeah, do you want a hand? Yeah, it'd be great. And that's the last time we spoke about it. So here, here she is today. And so what we're going to do is we're going to have two of the presentations and we're going to have a conversation. Then Claire and I are going to have a little conversation about some of the stuff we actually have been talking about. And Claire's also going to give us her hot tips for collaborating and what a Collabor-date looks like when we first get together. And so I'm going to hand over now to Scrap Boy, who is going to host the session, but we're going to run around with microphones. And with a little bit of luck, we will definitely be finishing on time, don't you worry about that, but we might even get out early bell. We'll just see how we go. You might be so excited that you might want to sit here forever. But if that's not the case and you put up your hand and everybody else joins you, we'll just end. All right. Talk to you soon.
All right. Welcome to Collabor-date. Our first single ready to mingle is Simon Lunn, waste consultant from Traced. Come on down! Or up, as it were. Cheer. Okay. Simon likes long walks on the beach, and actually I made that up. So would you like the hand mic or would you like this mic? This one here? All right, Simon's going to give us his Collabor-date pitch. Oh, that's right. I'm timing. Okay. And your time starts now.
All right. Thank you, everyone, for making it to the last day of the last session. Yeah, we're there. All right. So I'm here to talk about waste reporting and, specifically in the construction space. So I just want to get an idea of the room. So who here is interested in data? Oh, wow. More than I expected. So you guys will be happy to know that in 2017, data became the most valuable resource in the world, overtaking oil and gas. But collecting this data has its challenges, particularly in the waste industry. Traditionally, it's been set and forget. Not too many people have asked questions, but here we are as a group, and the trend is we're asking questions. Where's it going? So I was an auditor at a few different, as I said, construction waste facilities. They would accept the waste and then process it. So they were getting asked more and more to report on this process. How much is recycled? What's recycled? That wasn't their traditional core business. They're not that great with it. I'm a data nerd, and that's my deal. So as auditors, we were finding that the pen and paper stuff they were writing about the bins and whatnot was getting sent to an admin lady, and that was put in a spreadsheet at some point, and then generally at the end of the month they'd just whip it all together and you'd get a report. Now, as auditors, we couldn't really verify that, and that was a problem for them. So as my passion is in data, I worked with these companies to develop a solution and created an app for them. So these guys, a couple of facilities now, just get out onto the yard, open their phones, start putting in the data. That's sent straight to the cloud. I'm looking at it as a third-party reviewer with somewhat auditable background as well, checking it for different types of information and trying to validate it to some extent. So from there, we generate monthly reports. It's all automated. Essentially now, all they have to do is type in the stuff in the app and forget about it. That's taken a lot of time, admin, and headaches away from them. And it's also clear from an auditor's perspective, we can go in and validate those reports and verify that information. So this was the solution that I came up with for construction waste, but in the process, I figured out how to build apps and how to collect data. So it's not just usable for the construction industry, but we're in 2023, and you would be surprised how easy it is to build apps these days. I'm not a background in software or anything. So I'd just like to finish with, if you have an idea or something that you're spending a lot of time with pen and paper, or you want to start thinking about collecting data efficiently, I'm obviously passionate about it, so feel free to give me a call and we can talk it through. So finally, I'm Simon, my company's Traced, and I'm taking the waste industry digital one load at a time. Thank you.
Ladies and gentlemen, everyone, Simon Lunn, your data nerd, he's ready to mingle. So, Kate, would you mind if I ask our first contestant a couple of questions? Take a seat, Simon. Collaborator. Yeah, better not call them daters. Keep your microphone. So, Simon, what is your perfect collaboration? What does that look like for you? In a couple of sentences, who's the sort of person that you'd like to work with?
I think someone that probably wants to investigate data at a more granular level. There might not be a legislative requirement for that, but for example, investigating bin contents, doing your bin audits. I can build an app to make the process streamlined. So you don't have to do paper on those audits anymore. You just tap plastic bottle, date you've entered it, and it starts creating your data for you. And then we streamline it so I can also create the reports, this Power BI, everyone talks about that. These sort of things, you can create dashboards and whatnot. So look, it's flexible, and I enjoy doing it. So anyone that has an idea, feel free to get in touch, and we can collaborate in that way.
So if you like waste and you like numbers, Simon is your man. The phones are open now.
So let's read the room a bit. Okay, so without having to make any big commitments, who thinks that Simon's idea is like just that you can build an app on anything to measure anything, and he can do all of that? Who thinks that's awesome? Is there anyone in particular who has got any questions for Simon? Or says, hey, we'd like to have a chat about this later? I know, this is the brave bit from the audience's point of view. Oh, Charlie, what have you got to say?
Coming down. This is Charlie from Soilco.
It's just Charlie owes
When
me.
can you start?
Hey Claire, when we're thinking about data and we're thinking about these app ideas, when we're thinking, because I know you're a great out-of-the-box thinker, what comes to your mind first up where you think that having apps and data would be an interesting place when we're futurescaping these conversations?
Wow, that's a big question.
And on the spot.
For me, I think there's two things about it. So one is that anything we can do to make collecting that good quality data easier for non-data nerds like me is amazing, because just we have such a dearth of information across this industry, and if we can't measure it, we can't manage it. I think the second thing for me is that starting to create this digital kind of repository of data means there's so much analysis and insight we can be gathering about that group of information, and you can start to see trends and you can start to see synergies that maybe when we're all looking at it individually and we've all got our own individual spreadsheets, you'd never get to see that. So the more we can kind of aggregate or be able to see that data in the cloud and do some of that insight, that's the power for me.
Yes, it's interesting, isn't it? Because what we're talking about there is collaborating beyond just one relationship within an app, yeah? Because it is in isolation, it tells us our story, but does it tell us a bigger story? And for me, when it comes to all of this stuff, I think some of the times when we first were collecting data, it was about reporting to a funding body, yeah, that this is why we collected data. And so did it really impact or influence or change the way we did things? Or were we able to communicate that to the community in a way that made sense to community, that helped them change their behaviour? So I suppose that's my challenge as we're going on further. How do we take that data that we're doing as waste industry or councils and convert that into ways that encourage and inspire and even protect and even maybe gamify how we can get the public to then understand what's going on in a way that they're getting more and more around anyway. So there we go. Hey, oh yes, Emma, what are you thinking?
Emma's going to come up. Yeah, are you coming up for your turn? Oh, you got a question?
It's maybe not a question to Simon, but it was just building off what you were saying, Kate. What if we collected information on where in a household materials are generated when we're doing curbside data audits? And if anyone is doing that already, I'd love to know.
Well, that's taken a turn from one Collabor-date to two right here in the room. This could be interesting.
Thanks. I did Get It Right on Bin Night do that at Sustainability Victoria as part of their campaign. Yes. Yeah, so that could, yeah. Sustainability Victoria is now Recycling Victoria. They had a campaign. Oh, I can't, I'm sorry. Get It Right on Bin Night was their campaign. It was, when was it? 2015? They looked at what rooms in the house generated what kind of waste.
Well, yes, you can.
I like the turn. I like that turn. Did you see the organic movement in collaboration that just happened in the room? That's what we can do during this. Feel like we can have conversations within our own space, building on ideas, and having a whole group discussion. Love it. That's right.
Let's give Simon Lunn, our first Collabor-dater, a big round of applause.
And what a great presentation it was, especially that very sexy last line. I was very impressed with that. Well
yes.
done.
Now,
Well
if you'd like to slide into Simon's DMs, you can contact him at simon@excel, that's ECCELL.com.au for all your data needs. Our next Collabor-daters come all the way from the scenic rim. She's known as Emma Thompson. She is the coordinator for Waste Services. Ladies and gentlemen, everyone, put your hands together for Emma.
Thank you. And I'm already jealous of Simon and his great sign-off, and I've been desperately sitting there trying to think of something.
Pressure.
Right. So I just wanted to actually promote an opportunity that we have at the moment. We have an expression of interest process open. It has a very sexy title of Asset Development Management and Services, Waste Asset Development Management and Services. What that means, though, and what we're aiming for, is partners who will help us, work with us towards a zero waste society. So there's 3 parts to the EOI. One is around our assets, including our Bromelton asset, which is a major landfill in southeast Queensland, and our transfer stations, and what opportunities there might be to work with partners to run those assets more efficiently, or host organisations that are more focused on specific waste stream diversion from landfill. One is around organics processing, whether that's on our site or off our site, and the other is around alternative waste treatment, and you can take that to mean what you will. We're not specifying at this stage. So it's really that kind of stage 1 in a potentially staged procurement process, so we can understand what opportunities there are out there and then refine those further. So that's where we're at. I don't have a sign-off. That's it. Done.
Looking for zero heroes.
If you're looking for a concise and timely collaborator, Emma is your gal. That was less than 60 seconds. Well done. It really was. Yeah, you've got another minute and a half at least now that I've taken up 30 seconds.
Righto. So maybe just spelling that out a bit more, because I feel like I talked really high level then, right? So, you know, it is about the assets that we have and what improvements we can make. It is about the processes, and it is about council feedstock, but other potential opportunities in the area. We're not necessarily limiting that kind of collaboration. And it is, I think, ultimately, yes, as a council, we need to look at what works for our ratepayers, but we understand that the asset that we hold has value within that regional context of southeast Queensland. And yeah, so that's probably just adding a little bit more.
Let's put our hands together for our second Collabor-dater, Emma. Now, Emma, you're in the Collabor-date chair. A quick question. Can you give us an example of a couple of Collabor-daters you might like to meet after the session?
I'm not sure if I'm really allowed to do that, right?
We make up the rules here at Collabor-date.
The Local Government Act and Regulation. Sorry,
Okay,
Michael.
all right. Yeah, okay. Within your guidelines.
Yeah, so businesses that potentially recover resources, reuse or repair. That's probably a good summary.
Yeah, that captures quite a few businesses.
Yeah.
Fantastic.
Hand up if you're excited by Emma's offerings today. There's a lot of excited people out there. We won't let them tender here in the room because, you know.
Thanks, Kate.
That's right. I, unlike Scrap Boy, understand the sensitivities of this. Right? But everyone, where can they find, where is the tender, where is this expression of interest going to be?
So it's hosted on Vendor Panel. So if you're not on Vendor Panel, you will need to register to be able to access it. But you can find out more information on Scenic Rim's website. So scenicrim.qld.gov.au.
Well, let's thank Emma very much for that fantastic offering. Great for everybody to know, because I know there's lots of people in the room who are interested in that work, so spectacular.
So you heard it. If you'd like to chat with Emma offline, you can find her at scenicrim.qld.gov.au. It's now time for our intermediate chat with Claire and Kate. Put your hands together for the hosts of the show.
I feel a bit close to chat, but anyway, kind of it's a bit intimate, isn't it? There we go.
Watch me fall off
just
the
weird,
stage.
just weird. There we go. That's better. It's really lovely for us to have Claire in this completely organic position because we can get to yarn about some things that I was lucky enough to invite Claire to work with us on the Change the Story, Change the World project that we've worked on with the film industry. And one of the things that we were talking about were these what-if stories, you know. And I thought what would be nice to talk about, because we don't get to talk about these things a lot in a sort of an informal setting because we don't have the time to waffle in most of the sessions that we do. But one of the conversations we were talking about, which is something that keeps coming up that we don't have a lot of answers for yet, which is about textiles and fabric and clothing. And one of the things that we were talking about is that one of the sessions today was saying, like, what happens when we go right back to the top and we start looking at the top of our hierarchy and we start looking at that kind of reuse sort of conversation. And we were talking about that, weren't we? What does the wardrobe of the future look like? So what are you thinking, Claire? What does that wardrobe look like?
The wardrobe of the future. Well, I actually would correct you first, because the top of the hierarchy is not reuse, it's avoid.
Correct.
If you don't need it, don't buy it.
Yeah.
But yeah, the wardrobe of the future. So actually in the roadmap that we're going to publish on the 7th, we've got a little illustration of this. And essentially, I talked a little bit about it before in my speech, but you open your wardrobe, it looks essentially the same. There might be fewer clothes in it, but it looks the same. You still have clothes that reflect your personality. You know, clothes are a really integral part of our identity, but you access those clothes, or you've procured those clothes in a really different way. So one of the examples might be that you wouldn't have formal wear in your wardrobe because you would never go and buy formal wear, you would rent it because it's the kind of thing you only wear once. You might go to, I mean, I don't know about you, but I go to like maybe 2 things in a year where I need like a fancy dress, and there's absolutely 0 point buying something that then sits in my wardrobe unused for 363 days of the year. God, maths is not my strong point. The second part is that lots and lots of the clothes in your wardrobe would be secondhand and pre-loved. And there's lots of different ways of getting that. You might do clothes swaps with your friends. You might shop at the op shops. You might go to online platforms like eBay or Vestivaire. There's lots of kind of digital platforms popping up where people can sell their clothes. Also, people can rent their clothes. The clothes that you buy that aren't pre-loved, so we're not going to be buying secondhand underwear, but that's made of recycled content, and it's very easily recycled. And when it's finished with, you know exactly what to do with it. You know where to take it, so that you can have confidence that it will be recycled again. So I think it's that thing of. And this feeds into the broader conversation about sustainable lifestyles, is we talk about sustainable lifestyles and a lot of people have immediately jumped to, well, these are all the things that I'm not allowed to do anymore. These are all the things that I can't have anymore. And it's actually not really like that. We'll do a lot of the things that we do, we'll have a lot of the things that we have, but we just access those products and services in a really different way. And the sharing economy becomes a much bigger part of how we use those products. And I talked earlier about like a washing machine. Do you need to own a washing machine, or do you need to be able to launder your clothes? And they're not the same thing. And those kind of mindset shifts, I think, are really important.
Yeah, there's a couple of things around that too. It's just a lovely idea. I think that I've been collaborating with my wardrobe with all of my friends for all of my life. I mean, if you're that sort of person who's got those sorts of friends who sit on, I know I don't look like I should be, but who still come to your house and sit on your bed and borrow your clothes and do things and you hang out together. And there's something really lovely about that, well, that one-on-one thing. But But also, I think as somebody who loves finding secondhand wonders and vintage things, it's I suppose it's the selling of, collaborating with people who can tell that story really well, so that we can help shape the younger generation as they're coming up to feel the value and the love and the joy in that, rather than at the moment this kind of reckless wear and throw away kind of with the tag still on it world.
Definitely. And I think there's a lot of talk about the younger generation, and a lot of people are very optimistic about the younger generation's attitude, and in a lot of cases that is true. But there's also a lot of cases of the younger generation, and I'm not just singling them out because we're all doing it too, but of doing that thing of like, I'm going to buy 20 things from Shein and do an Instagram haul, and then most of them never get worn. And, they're cheap and essentially disposable. Like, clothing is the new single-use plastic. 60% of our clothes are made from plastic and don't get worn more than once or twice. And so, it's just because no one's really twigged about this that actually it hasn't been part of single-use plastic bans or other policy or legislative actions. And so that there's this whole suite of interventions that we need to be thinking about, and one of them is about that social norming piece, that it becomes totally unacceptable to do that kind of thing, to be on Instagram and saying, look at all these 20 things I bought, or look, I bought 10 bikinis for my next holiday, or I'm going to a wedding, so I bought 5 dresses to try on, and it's that kind of thing, like social norming the unacceptability of those behaviors.
Yeah, it's interesting, isn't it, too? We were talking about it when we were talking about film, and the conversation we were having with filmmakers was that we, on screen, not behind the scenes, but on screen, we weren't seeing normalising of sustainable choices. Like we don't see solar panels on houses, we don't see cars being charged, we don't see people with coffee cups, we don't see a lot of people with shopping bags, and what we do see is if you're depressed, you go shopping. They don't show you if you're depressed, you go for a walk in the bush, or you sit and look at the ocean. Yeah, if you're depressed, you go shopping. And so we've been talking about those sorts of conversations because there's no real reason, there's no driving drama or driving the narrative to have those things in there. They're just a habit that filmmakers and people are using, and what it does is it normalises that behaviour to people who are watching, and the amount of content that we're consuming at the moment is we've got this exact opposite opportunity to not be goody-goody, right? But just in the background of everything to show the life that people are living, and also the lives that we want to be living. So I think fascinating.
And it's critical because we're social animals. We like to be part of a group and we like to fit into that group. And the more you norm those behaviours, the more you just present them as just every day. And it's not saying, this is a good person because they're recycling. It's just, everybody recycles. The more you do that, the more it embeds those behaviours in our own lifestyles.
Yeah, absolutely. The more we can find those identity statements, we are a people who recycle. In the Clarence Valley, we compost. In Melbourne, when we start making those really clear statements about identity, and when we start asking families to do that about themselves as well, so that we've got a project coming out later this year called Declare Your Care, and one of them is about a family manifesto. So what we're going to be doing is asking families to really, really examine. We've got card games they can play, and they can look at things, and they can make some decisions, and then write a manifesto. And the manifesto might be, we love hanging out in nature. We like walking in barefoot in our garden. We like keeping chickens. We like recycling. We like eating food that we know where it comes from, whatever it is. And they create this manifesto. It might be completely different for every family. It doesn't have to be this kind of rural life, idyllic lifestyle. But what it does is it helps family make decisions. So when they're faced with those decisions about where they want to go on holidays, or how do they want to have a birthday party, or what's the next car that they want to buy, that they've got a manifesto of values that says, hey, this is who we are, this is our family. And because we're trying to find these ways to help people, I think we're all trying to find these ways to help households, families, people, business, frameworks for them where these decisions are easier to make because that's who they identify as being.
And I think the other part of that is, and kind of coming back to the clothing example, is creating the context in which it's easier for people to make the right choice, and recognizing that, you know, we are all different. We all respond to stimuli in different ways, and particularly with clothing, it's a really emotive topic because it's a real core part of your identity. Like, even if you don't care about clothes, that's part of your identity. And so being able to create that context in which it's easier to make better choices, and also enabling people to kind of recognize and live by those values, it's two sides of the same coin, and you can't do one without the other.
Yeah. Everything that I've worn at the conference over the last few days is secondhand.
Awesome.
I don't have any new things. I've got a pair of boots that I did buy off Marketplace that were new but not worn. And I've only worn those the whole time because they're comfortable, you know, and because they're awesome because they've got birds on them. But, you know, but I think the thing too is I think we should be happy to say, hey, I just wear secondhand clothing. It's like, I'm just wrapped when I find something that is, you know, my green velvet jacket is 60 years old, you know, and I just love that because I've thought about who else has worn it, you know, and where's it been and what life has it lived before I got to have it. It's like kind of cool.
But I think one of the things that's really interesting about this progression is that there are some models that we haven't even explored yet. And so one of the things that we've talked about in the clothing scheme, so we all know Shein, the company, ultra fast fashion, they're terrible, absolutely awful. But what they're really, really good at is knowing who is buying their products, when and where. And they have incredible technology that focuses their algorithms on those people. So they put thousands of new products on the market every week, but they actually don't put a lot of each product because it's really focused at where they know it's going to get bought. Now imagine if you could take that skill and capability and give it to charity shops. Yeah. So that your local charity shop, who you follow on Instagram or you get email updates from, is sending you a thing that says, oh, we think you might like this. Can you imagine how powerful that would be? Like that they've got their inventory and that they're really targeting their customers. It would be incredible.
It'd be fantastic, wouldn't it? My Collabor-date is the fact that after the floods, I was thinking because we were flooded, but many people lost everything in the Northern Rivers. And I was thinking about a project called Formerly Yours. And what it is, it's people donate formal outfits, like great dresses and great suits. And there's a bus that comes to town with all of those in them. And because you lose your best dress to wear to the next wedding or your daughter's graduation or your son's footy, you know, you lose that dress. And for many people, especially in regional Australia, they've had that dress forever and they've worn it and they've loved it and it fits them and it's great, you know. To have a bus that's called Formerly Yours rock up and you could choose something beautiful to wear because people have donated it to the flood cause. For men to get a great fitting suit and a shirt and pair of good shoes, and then to have a green carpet where they can walk down, and because you're in town, people would do that because it's fun. Someone who does people's hair and makeup for no reason other than to just feel joy. I just think that if someone wants to collaborate with me, I've got no money to do that, but it's a beautiful idea. So if anybody feels like they want to Collabor-date on that with me, or they've run into someone in the next year because these catastrophic events are going to keep happening, people are going to keep losing their best dress. And I know it's not the biggest solution, but it's just an interesting way that we can inject joy back into the world in a very sustainable way. And it's a way that you, if you're not impacted by flood, can gift something from your wardrobe to somebody who no longer has a best dress.
Well, that was a bonus Collabor-date from our third player today. Put your hands together for Claire and Cate for the Collabor-date in Conversation bonus. Of course, that brings us to our next Collabor-dater. Kathleen from Osgreen is the Rethink Program Manager, and she is ready to mingle. Let's make a welcome. It's Kathleen.
She's bringing Michael with her. Are you coming up? Is it Michael? Yeah, jump up. You're going to help out, won't you? Yep.
Hi everyone, my name's Kathleen and I'm the Program Manager with Ausgreen. I run a Rethink program and this is Anton Jordborges, who's the CEO. So today we're here to talk a bit about Ausgreen and a bit about a program that we've recently been running. We're really passionate at Ausgreen about creating sustainable futures, and we really believe that everyone can play a role in that. We've teamed up with the EPA last year and for the last year have been running a program called Rethink. It's targeting education around waste reduction, what to do with waste, and also single-use plastics. We decided to take this program into the event space and work with event holders, stall holders, food vendors, but also interact with the general public who come to lots of different events. We did food markets, music festivals and other sort of festivals, so we had a real broad range of people coming to these events. One of the most engaging sort of parts of the program was actually at the bins, standing at the bins. We had a whole heap of volunteers and staff who would stand there, and as patrons of the event would come up, we'd sort of jump in and be like, oh, what have you got there? And we'd sort of help sort their rubbish for them. And it was a really great opportunity to have conversations around waste, to talk about different bin regulations, to talk about what goes where, what you can do at home in terms of composting, and answer questions. And what we found was the general consensus was that people are really ready. They want to make changes. They see the value in keeping our resources sort of cycling in our communities rather than going to landfill. But the messaging is really confusing. They don't know what to do and they don't have time. They don't have time to go home and research this sort of stuff. So to be able to be somewhere where they were going to be anyway and just have a quick little chat and hopefully make changes so that next time they go up to the bin, they make that change, they change their behaviour, they put the right thing in the right bin, and ideally they take it home and actually make those changes at home. The second really exciting part of the program, we trialled a washing station, which involved members, again, volunteers, our community donating goods so that we could have tableware, so plates and cups and cutlery and that sort of thing, actually at a festival and use those instead of compostable packaging. And so the idea was to reduce as much waste as we could. The festival was in Bellingen, just down the road from Coffs Harbour, and there was about 1,500 people at the event, and we only produced less than 2 standard bins of waste for the whole day. So it was we were pretty proud of that effort, and the consensus the feedback that we got from the community was they were really impressed. It was really great to see something sort of being role modelled in their community, and we also had a number of local organisations come to us who aren't in a sort of space to tackle waste at their event, but they came to us and sort of said, can you help us? We're ready, we want to make change. So it's really exciting to be working in this space. And that's a pilot program, so I'll just pass over to Anton now.
So we're really grateful to the EPA to have had the opportunity to collaborate with them to create the Rethink program. And we're also really excited to say that we're looking for additional partners and sponsors to work with us to expand the program. We've been quite taken back actually by the level of interest from event organisers and also from people who go to the events. I think maybe we went into it with a little bit of a view that people would see us as kind of cops on the bins, and it's not really the way it's worked out at all. And the level of engagement and interest and willing participation from event goers and the food vendors was fantastic. And as Kathleen said, the level of interest that we've received from the event organisers has been a little astonishing and really pleasing. We've had event organisers come up to us and say, we've been trying to do this for 10 years and haven't succeeded. Can you please come and do it for us, essentially? So we're reaching out essentially for organisations that would like to work with us to take this further. And we're in a position to talk about what you're doing as well as what we're doing with those parties, with those organisers, those food vendors, those event attendees. But also, we tend to find that the local government people will come over and have a bit of a chat with us. Because what we're doing is new and interesting and innovating, we get interest from different sectors as well too. So we think there's an opportunity to talk about you, to add you into our social media campaigns on our website, that kind of thing. So if you'd like to explore that further, then please come and see us.
Let's hear it for Anton and Kathleen. Another great Collabor-date. So, does everyone like the sound of that, folks? Yes? Yeah. Any questions from the floor? Joe. Big voice.
Yeah, we had a plastic assembly program in Noosa called Plastic Free Noosa, which started and was funded by, supported by the Queensland Government to get underway. Has been adopted by Tourism Noosa now is the thing, and the way they approached it was to get the plastics out and introduce the compostables, which puts them actually ahead of council because we don't have a compostables service to facilitate it, so it's going offline, and they're so very proud of the fact that they've turned it all into compost as opposed to waste in the landfill. But you've gone one step further and actually reduced the compostable element there, and I'm really interested to hear more about how you've taken that into events to reduce waste and not even require the composting element.
Yeah, so I think it requires I don't think it's a sort of setup you can necessarily have at every event. It requires a commercial dishwasher. So if you can bring a commercial dishwasher in and run it as a portable sort of site, you can definitely do that. But ideally, yeah, reducing in the first place is the ideal scenario. So we ran the event at the showgrounds, and so we had a team who were collecting coffee cups at the bin station. So people would generally drop their plates, their dirty dishes at the bin stations. We had volunteers who'd collect them, they'd take them to the showgrounds, into the kitchen. We had a team volunteering in there washing them, and then people would take them to the food vendors as well. And we worked, right back at the start to talk to food vendors and make sure that the people coming to the festival were actually going to support this initiative. And we made it really clear, and we wanted people who were going to support it. So I hope that answers your question.
Yeah, 100 years ago at the Channon Market in Lismore, which wasn't really 100 years ago, I'm exaggerating, 20 years ago, the council supported a van which was Wash Against Waste. And it was like a food van, but it had commercial dishwashers in it. And it all was stocked with enough crockery. And when you went, you paid $2 for the deposit on your plate. And you used it the whole time. And you would, even if you took it back and they washed it, it wasn't like you were washing it. And so there was a deposit thing, and you got your $2 back. And whoever was, I'm pretty sure, I'm not making this up, but whoever was the charity of the day who were getting the money from the market at the gate supplied some volunteers for that service for the day. But it was a proper caravan with dishwashing. And this is the sort of thing when we're talking about scale, we're talking about, like a different way of doing it. When I was in Tokyo, they had, which I didn't expect for it to happen at all, there was like a marquee, and they had like lots of washing stations set up. And when you got there, you gave any gold coin and you got your plate. And then when you took it back, you got any gold coin back. So you might make a loss or a profit. But that seemed to be fun for everybody. Like they all just thought that was fun. And so we thought it was fun too, because acting like a... Yeah. Claire, have you seen this around the place?
Actually, no, and I love this idea. I love it so much. Like going from plastic to compostables is like going from this to this, and then going from that to reuse is like, up here, great, that's what we want to be doing. Compostable is only good if you actually compost it, and if it's still waste. So yeah, I love this. I love it so much.
I might just throw a comment in there too. I want to reiterate what Kathleen said. There was 2 red bins at the end of the day. And this was an all-day event with multiple food vendors, bands, workshops going on. We had a whole shed full of empty red bins at the end of the day because we'd planned for the worst-case scenario, which was really fantastic. But the other thing too that using the reusables is that the quality of the compost material was fantastic. And we actually worked with the local community garden, and they took it away because this is fantastic compost for them too. So that's another thing that we offer as well, is to try and work with local community gardens, organisations like that, who actually want high quality compostable material to come and remove it. Yeah.
Fantastic.
Let's thank Kathleen and Anton from Osgreen. If that Collabor-date got your heart racing, you can chat with Kathleen at kathleen@osgreen.org.au. It's now time for our final Collabor-date for Waste 2023. We're sitting on the edge of our seats. Please welcome Rosalind from Soilco.
So Charlie says, what?
Rosalind's been snapped up by someone already.
That's right.
So finally, I'll hand over to Kate, the host with the most, for our wrap-up here at Collabor-date Waste 2023.
Well, that was fun. Wasn't that fun? Good way to end it off, hey? Lots of positivity, great ideas, and also great opportunity for people with new ideas. Maybe they'll think this is a great idea and we can do it next year, and you can think of all kinds of great things that we can be talking about in our last session together. It is funny, when we're sitting back in our offices, it's easy and we pretty quickly forget something, that we are a community. That all of us here hang out together for 3 days, and that we are a community. We're all working on the same things, working with the same goals, with shared visions. And so it's sometimes easy to forget that when we go back to work. But I suppose what I'd love you to think about is that, you know, what we talked about before, the difference, the first day, whatever it is, that we talked about the fact that there's business and there's collaboration, and they're quite different from each other. And that shared values is really driving that idea of collaboration and elevating and adding experience and getting diversity and all the things that we can't always do when we're by ourselves. It's not just about money or funding or bringing dollars to the table. That always helps. Imagine if these guys had big dollars, what they could be doing with what they're doing. Because some of these things do need big dollars, yeah? And that's where we're at. We have to ask ourselves, what are the things we want to give big dollars to? Where are we getting that true value in the community for the future? And so, and that's not probably all of us, because I don't know, but I don't think I see any funders in the room. But you know what I mean. You know, I think that we are at a stage where we need to be thinking about some of these ideas and actually doing them to scale, so that we can start making change that matters and doing things that last, and that we do profound, sticky kinds of things that make behavioural change so much easier for the community because it's seductive. The people who we work against, the waste makers, are very, very good at selling their products. Yeah, they've got great expertise. They've got big marketing budgets, and they are really good at helping people connect with what they do. And here's us working on 1% marketing budgets. Yeah, like tiny marketing budgets when we're talking about the waste, when people are looking at their thing. 1 to 5% seems to be what people are spending on communication and education, and that's not going to last. We can't win this story if that's where we're going to sit. In America, when they make a film, the budget could be $27 million. The marketing budget will be $27 million plus 20%. And that's horrible. It's a horrible thing to think about. And as filmmakers in Australia, we talk about it all the time, because in Australia, a film's $10 million and the marketing budget is $50,000, you know, if you're lucky, right? But it's the same, like we laugh at that, but it's the same in waste. Yeah? So I think it's that thing of going, if we want scale, collaboration is of ideas, collaboration of all of those other things that we can do is spectacular. And I think what we need to understand, we need to help policymakers understand that education needs to be supercharged if we're going to make a difference that matters, and if we're going to keep the planet cool rather than at a temperature that is going to make it difficult for us, but nearly impossible for the grandchildren of the people who are sitting in this room. Don't mean to be a downer, because you know I'm an optimistic and loving person. A courageous soul, but we've got to also face some truths here. Yeah. But I'm going to pass to Claire, because she's going to say something much more uplifting than that. Here she is.
Oh my God, no pressure. Look, we're all here, we're all doing the thing, right? And sometimes it's a real slug. And sometimes you wake up and you're like, oh, what am I even doing? Like, what am I achieving? And you have to just stop and take a minute to look back and think about all the things that you have done, because it's so easy, and I'm guilty of this as anyone, of being like, oh, well, I could have done this, and I could have done that, and I could have just sent that other email, and I could have, spoken to that person or that person, and you spend so much time doing that, you forget about all the things that you have done and that we have done. And I think as an industry, as a group of people, as a community, we've actually done so much stuff. Like, so much stuff is better now because of what we've done and our colleagues and compatriots than it was 5 years ago or 10 years ago or even 1 year ago. And I think we all deserve a pat on the back for that.
I think we deserve a massive round of applause. So everyone, while you're giving yourself a massive round of applause, I really want you to think about something absolutely fantastic that you are really proud of that you've done in the last 12 months. We'll think about it first, give you some time to think about it. So when you're giving your round of applause in a minute, you're giving everybody's thoughts that they've got in their heads a round of applause as well as your own. Okay, you ready? 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, go.